Podcast City Network.
This is Final Score, your number one podcast for sports news. Here are your hosts, Chris and Craig.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Final Score. This is Craig, and I have brought back recurring guest and of Off the Ball podcast and owner of Off the Ball Network, Chris LeBron. How are you doing? Welcome back, my friend.
I'm happy to be back, Craig. This is I'm looking forward to this, and like I said, thanks for having me on again, bro.
Absolutely. Well, obviously, we brought you back because you're making a bunch of moves in the podcasting world, and you guys really have been really busy over the last week. We had the NBA draft on Wednesday night, and then the NBA free agency started very quickly after on Friday.
Yeah.
So that got started. You guys have been pretty busy over there.
Oh yeah, it's the draft. I mean, the draft stuff has been. It feels like 3 years I've been doing a bunch of draft stuff. It feels like it's been forever, but not much turnaround, right? We go right around, right? Draft happens and then boom, free agency a few days later. So, got to rest up for a little bit after all the draft stuff, but free agency got me on the phone 24/7, seeing what's going on. But it's crazy. It's been a crazy couple days in the NBA. So, but it's also fun, that there's so much, transactions happening and seeing where guys are going. So it's fun.
Absolutely. Yeah, that bubble's not really doing any favors for the 2020 or the 2021 season.
Yeah.
But let's jump right into it. Let's talk about Wednesday night. First of all, what were your initial reactions or just overall thoughts on the night? Obviously, they took the NFL route and went completely virtual. What
Yeah.
are your initial thoughts on how the night went overall?
Yeah, they did. We kind of saw with the NFL draft, right, and how they handled everything, and it kind of went well. It went really well for the NFL. So, the NBA has done a good job with how they handled, the pandemic and all that. So I was kind of confident that they would definitely, do a good job with all that and handling all that. So that wasn't shocking that they hit a home run with that. But yeah, everything went smooth. It was emotional. I think a lot of emotion from these guys, more than we probably would have seen if this was like if this was like at a, wherever, and they, handshakes with the commission and all that, with a lot of emotion. I guess when you're around your family, you feel more comfortable and you could do stuff like that. But yeah, it went well. It went well. Not too many shocking surprises or anything like that, but overall, it went well for sure.
Absolutely. And with Anthony Edwards going number one overall out of Georgia, you talk about not really too many big surprises. Do you think anybody like really kind of went out of left field and took somebody that you were kind of shocked by, or was everybody pretty well in line with what you guys had predicted?
I mean, this draft was a draft where we all knew like everyone has everyone all over the place. So
Yeah.
we were kind of expected to see probably a few names that maybe went higher than we might anticipated. But it kind of went the way we kind of thought it went. And then I mean, obviously Patrick Williams going to Chicago was kind of shocking, but you could see the upside because he is a physical talent and he does possess a lot of things, a lot of tools that I think teams would like. But no, I didn't when I going through the draft, there wasn't really any picks where I was like, oh my God, why'd they do that? It was kind of like you said, this draft is all over the place. So it's kind of like, okay, I get it. This is probably one of the few drafts where you actually like, okay, I get why they would do that. Get why I do it. There wasn't a lot of head scratchers like, oh my God, there wasn't like that Papagiannis, when Sacramento took him and like a few years back, and you're like, whoa, like why was that? Or Anthony Bennett type stuff. So overall, nothing really crazy. Maybe a few guys that may have went a little higher than I would have took, but you could see why they, like Isaiah Stewart was another guy too, like that went, top 16. I probably had him like in the 30s and stuff, but he was a top 5 recruit coming out of high school, so you could see why a team would take a chance on him because he has physical gifts. So I mean, nothing crazy. Like it kind of, it was shocking as far as that. Like there was nothing really over the top was happened in this draft. So other than that, yeah, it kind of went smooth, and yeah, it was shocking as far as that. Like it kind of went really smooth and nothing too out of the norm. Because we heard the Patrick Williams stuff,
Yeah.
was going to happen. That he was going to go top 10. I didn't think top 4, but like I said, you can see why. Because he has the potential to be really good. And in this draft, you're going to take a lot of guys based off potential. Because obviously, a lot of a lot of guys stopped playing in March, and we couldn't see a full season, or so especially with freshmen like him, like you don't get to see a full season. So it wasn't, nothing too crazy happened.
Yeah, and I saw you guys were doing on your last mock draft talking about some guys shooting up the boards because of their workouts, and
Hmm.
like you said, there's not a whole lot of tape, but they were shooting up the boards because of how good their workouts were, and kind of throwing a wrench into some things. But
Yeah.
over the course of the night, we obviously had not a lot of big trades in the top, in the lottery,
Yeah,
which is kind
none.
of surprising,
No,
really
I think that's the
surprising.
first time, and I forgot the exact year, but it's like the first time in a while where there's no trades in the lottery.
Yeah, we heard a lot about the Warriors potentially trading out of number 2, and who was going to go up and take that spot. But
Hmm.
yeah, no movement. The Pistons were kind of the only team that really made a lot of moves outside of that. Um, but out of all the teams, who do you think did the most to kind of improve themselves, or who do you think kind of there's always winners and losers in a draft?
Yeah.
Who do you think kind of did the most there in Wednesday night's draft?
Um, I think I like the Pistons draft. I don't like the free agency,
Yeah.
but I think they kind of, I don't know what they're doing in free agency. They're getting so many centers and all that, but I did like their draft a lot. I felt like, they took, to me, the number one player in the draft in Killian Hayes. So to me that was a home run. That was a steal for them. And just I liked how they need a new face of the franchise, and I think
Mhm.
Killian can definitely be that guy for them. And but Timberwolves took some chances. They took they selected Anthony Edwards. A lot of people were worried about Anthony Edwards before the draft and a lot of the stuff coming out, but I definitely like what they did. So yeah, I mean, the Knicks, I think, took they took their guy and Obi Toppin. They did good. The Suns with Jalen Smith. There was a lot of like I said, there was a lot of more things I liked than I didn't like the teams made. So there's definitely, like I said, the Patrick Williams thing was kind of, a little, like I said before, head scratching. But
Yeah.
overall, I mean, the Hawks getting Onyeka Okongwu to me was like, wow, like they got him, like, and then the additions they made in the offseason with getting, Gallinari, coming to the team. That they, to me, they solidified themselves as a possible playoff team for sure, in my opinion, because they needed to get some guys like that, and they did well. So I think the Hawks hit a home run. Yeah, like I said, there's no isn't. I liked a lot of like I really liked this draft. So I wasn't sitting back like, oh, this team did bad. I think a lot of these teams got better. There's a lot of good shooters. The Pelicans got Kyra Lewis Jr., who's another guy I
Mhm.
really liked a lot. Wonder how they feel about Lonzo. That's interesting. With that, but yeah, there wasn't a lot of like we said before, like there wasn't a lot of moves where I was like, I don't like I liked a lot of teams draft more than teams I didn't like. So yeah.
Yeah, you look at the Hawks. They're a really young team. They're up on the rise, and yeah, you mentioned some of those guys that they picked up. Um, some of the fits, depending on who you ask. That
Hmm.
looking at like the Hornets really needed to go get a guy like Lamelo Ball.
A star. They
Yeah,
needed a star.
assuming that he can be the
Hmm.
guy that all that hype is around. If he can be that, they've got a new point man that can be the face of the franchise.
Right.
And I'm with you there. Of course, being a Pistons fan myself, I'm a big I was pretty high on getting Sadiq Bey. I thought he was a pretty big steal for us.
Yes, Sadiq Bey.
That
I
was
love. He was a top 14 guy for me. So getting Sadiq Bey was huge. He's a good shooter and can guard a couple multiple positions. So to getting Sadiq was huge for them.
Yeah, I think now the next move for them is you getting Killian Hayes, and they got Sekou Doumbouya from last year.
He has so much
Yes.
potential. I don't mention him because I it's hard to say his name. So I hate every time I mention like I think about it, I'm like I just can't say the name. I have to I finally perfected Pokushevsky's name after like months. So I wouldn't take him in mock drafts because I couldn't say his name. So I was like,
Yeah.
all right. When I finally figure out his name, I'm gonna say it. But yeah, you're right. He has so much potential. So they got some guys, but I don't know what they're doing in free agency.
That's
I don't get it's kind of like they literally like they had one of the best drafts. Like everyone was saying the Pistons had a great draft, getting Bay, getting Killian Hayes, and then free agency is like, well, this is why the Pistons have been in such flux, right? They just make head scratching moves. I don't
yeah.
get what they're doing, but
Yeah, free agency has never been a strong point for the Pistons. I
no,
mean,
no,
you can
they
go all the
struggle.
way back to Ben Gordon and Charlie V.
Yeah, that was some bad contracts. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, I think they're in a good spot. I think now they just have to decide what are you going to do with somebody like Blake Griffin, he's there to sell tickets, but is he going to be a guy that's going to help push you,
Hmm.
for the playoffs to start? They got to get a winning record first, but I think a
Yeah.
lot of the young guys, like you mentioned, they had a great draft. Teams like that, the Hawks went out and just kept getting a little bit better and a little bit better. Um, so
Yeah, and
with
they just
those,
signed Jeremy Grant too, like
absolutely.
another power forward. Like he had a good bubble, but that's a lot to give to a role player. But he is a good player. He's a good defender, so that made sense. But there's some other decisions that you're gonna see how they do with Blake because I think that's maybe they have a deal or they know what they're gonna do with Blake because I don't see Blake being a part of the future of this team.
Yeah, there's too many young guys there, and a guy like him, he does love the city, but he does want to win, so he does
Yeah,
want
yeah.
to go somewhere. Hopefully, they could put him in a spot where he can be successful.
Hmm.
You mentioned a lot of people having good drafts. Do you think anybody had like a not? I don't think they really improved a lot type of draft.
Oh, I mean, the Bulls, I would say, like I said, I get why they took Patrick Williams because of the upside, but I don't know if this offense is eventually gonna turn around to be worthy of a top four pick. So, I thought they were gonna be in the I thought it was Killian Hayes for sure.
Mhm.
I was certain it was going to be Killian Hayes. I think that would have made them significantly better with Kobe White and Zach Levine, and they still got Wendell Carter Jr., Laurie Market, and I think that's a nice starting five right there off the bat. Like,
Mhm.
and Billy Dominant loves having multiple guards. He's the new coach. I think that would have been perfect, but they saw something in Patrick Williams. They could have used another a wing, and they just saw something in Patrick they really liked. I guess they're buying into the upside because, or else you wouldn't take someone at 4 if you don't buy
Yeah.
into upside, right? Yeah, but I think right away I don't think we're going to see a lot from Patrick. I think he's still a work in progress, but that was probably the one in the especially in the top 10 where I was like, not I don't see see it working right away, but like I said, it's all potential. Like we could be talking about 4 years and he's one of the best wings in the league, but I just didn't see it. Like I had him in like the 20s in my because I just didn't see I don't see the offense translate. I think he could be a hell of a defender,
Yeah.
I because he has a size. He's built like a tank too. So like he's gonna come in right away. Even if he's raw, he's gonna be able to defend right away. But the offense is something I think he has the potential to be good, but that's potential, right? Potential could
Mhm.
get you fired too. So
That's true.
Chicago, they definitely took a swing and they definitely took a big swing on this one, and
Yeah.
let's just see if it works out for them because I think there's other guys that they could have took at 4 that could have helped. I mean, Denny Avia, went to 9 to Washington. That's a steal for them. Like, even Toppin would have been a offensive. Tyrese Halliburton. They could have took a couple guys. So that was probably the one where I was like, all right, like I said, I get it, but I wouldn't do it if I was a GM, but
Right.
that's why they get paid millions of dollars. But we'll
That's
see what
right.
they do. We'll see how that pans out for them.
And that's why we have a lot of fun critiquing what they pick.
Yeah, 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 for sure, for sure.
Yeah. So we talked about the good, the bad, and now we got to talk. You touched a little bit briefly. We talk about your Knicks, man. I know you're really high on the Obi Toppin pick,
Yeah, yeah,
and
for sure.
really exciting type of player that can come in and really kind of energize the fan base, but also make you better as a team.
Hmm.
How'd you like the rest of the draft? I know they traded away one of their picks that they ended up taking. Um, but they picked up another pick from the Clippers. How do you think they did overall, the Knicks?
I like the top pick. I didn't think he was going to be there. I thought he wasn't going past Detroit. I thought that's as far as down he would drop. But Killian dropped there, so it was like, whoa,
Yeah.
like now once they got past Atlanta, I was like, whoa, because kind of like the Patrick Williams stuff changed everything because I
Yeah.
think everyone had a feel that Isaac like the top five would be there, but then Patrick Williams goes four, and it kind of changed everything. So so now in my mind I was like, whoa, it's either gonna be Killian or Obi is gonna be there. And I know the Knicks were really high on Toppin and Killian. Those were like their two top targets. So I'm like, we're gonna get one of them. So I I talked a lot that the Knicks need to come out of this draft taking the best player, but I thought the best player available would be Killian at this point. So I'm like, you can get the best player available and it's a point guard that you need. I thought that would have been tremendous for them. Didn't happen. Killian, obviously went to your Pistons, but getting Obi Toppin, I mean, this is the national college basketball player of the year. Like,
Hmm.
I feel like he got so disrespected during the process, especially by casual fans and all that. Like, they focus so much on the defense, and yes, can he be stiff on defense? Yes, we all know that and stuff. But the offense is he's going to come in and he's going to be one of the best scorers on the team right away.
Hmm.
So it's like you add that and add that to a team that needs that offensive punch. With RJ and Mitch and some guys who are still haven't developed their offensive game potential. You put him in there, he can shoot, he's athletic, he could rebound, he could do some stuff. The defense can definitely improve, but we all know this is a team. It's all about team defense anyway, and they can definitely hide him and stuff as far as that, especially with Tibbs. If there's a guy, if there's a if there's a guy that can improve his defense, it's definitely Tom Thibodeau. And they got some great guys, and the connection to CAA, with Leon Rose, who runs the Knicks. So I kind of had a feeling that if he was there, that would be the pick. I didn't think so, but it's crazy. But you know, they took quickly later at 25. They traded down and got some more picks and all that. And I like the pick. I like quickly. I had them a little later, but to me, from like 25 to like 60, you can literally like it's not even like it's like a big gap. It's like they're so close
Hmm.
together, just a matter of preference at that point. They're just so bunched up together from 25 to 60 plus. But quickly, he's a defender. He can shoot the ball. He's lights out at the free throw line, which is I
Hmm.
think something the Knicks did because they weren't a really good free throw shooting team. He shot like 92% from free throw line. Like I think he missed like 12 free throws all year. It was crazy. And you know, he's not a true point guard, but he can, he's more of a combo guard, but he can handle the ball a little bit. They still have, and then they picked up my Powell, as a undrafted free agent who's I think
Hmm.
he can come off the bench and light it up. But they still got to somehow, I would have loved to come out with a point guard, but unless in my what I was thinking is like they have their point guard in free agency. Maybe it's Fred VanVleet, maybe it's a trade. I know there's been some possible interest with Lonzo Ball, and the Pelicans have like 78 point guards, so maybe we can scoop one. They just drafted Kyra Lewis high too in the lottery, so maybe they can look at that, maybe, or maybe it's just a short term option like a DJ Augustine or like a Jeff Teague,
Hmm.
short term, and then you go into next year where the draft is stacked up top and free agency is a little better where there's a lot more options. But
Hmm.
overall, right now, I really dig what the Knicks did. They got better. To me,
That's good. That's a good
and
start.
that's it, right? You got better just by drafting good players that are going to be able to contribute. Both those guys, especially Toppin. Toppin's probably day one starter, or at least he's playing 20 plus minutes, opening day, even if he's come off the bench. And quickly he's probably going to give you, minutes too, right away because of the
Mhm.
defense, So to me, the Knicks took guys that are going to be able to contribute right away. And hopefully they can get a point guard that can play make and put these guys in the right position, especially because to me, this team needs to move in transition. If they can find a lead guard who can do that and put the guys in the right position, I think that's how you maximize these guys and their talent. So overall, the Knicks did
Mhm.
really well. It's just that I would see how they do in free agency. They added Alex Burke, who's a nice scorer off the bench. So we'll see how the rest of free agency goes. But the draft, I thought they did really good in the draft. So I'm very pleased at what they did.
Awesome. And kind of shifting focus here to finish out and talk a little bit about free agency. We're kind of keeping track and how things are going because it is ever active and there are live
Yeah,
updates coming in at the as
it's
the
it's
minute.
constant. It's crazy how constant it is. It's
uh,
wild.
what would you like to see the Knicks do in free agency? I know you mentioned Fred VanVleet. Is that somebody that you think they should go after, or do you have somebody else in mind at that point guard position you think they should really target?
You know what? I've been on the fence, with Fred because there's early in the process I was like, you know what? I like Fred. I think he could help contribute. But then it's like, you factor in like he played in Toronto, he played in a great system, he played with Kyle Lowry, DeRozan, all these great players, Gasol, Leonard, Kawhi, he played with a lot of great players and that helps, right? When you play with a bunch, it,
Absolutely.
it makes the game so much easier. And I don't know if he's, with this current Knicks team, if that's the guy that is gonna, because he wants to, and he said it on JJ Redick show. He wants to get paid, and he wants to be the lead guy. He wants to be the guy. I don't know if he's that guy. I don't know if he's a guy that you give $85 million to. That's going to be a all-star level point guard. Yeah, he's not crazy efficient. He's a good three-point shooter. I think he shot like 38, 39%. From three, but everything in between. He's not crazy efficient. And so, there's things that worry me as far as the fit. He would come in and be a good leader and all that, but when you're the guy now, it's different. It's like I said, you're playing with all those other guys. It's easier to play the game. So him coming in, being paid like a star, it's kind of like that Julius Randle situation. Like people loved Julius before this, but because he wasn't paid like a star, then you get paid like a star in New York City.
Yeah.
It's different, and you saw the backlash he got. Even though he was a 20-10 guy for the most part,
Yep.
you saw the backlash. So I kind of think that can happen to Fred because I don't think he's an all-star level point guard, but I think he's a definitely a good point guard, but I don't know if he's the guy that the Knicks essentially should be giving 80, $85 million to for 4 plus years and thinking that, he's the franchise point guard, So in my opinion, I wouldn't go after Fred unless it's like a deal where you get him on a reasonable, like, a 1+1 or a 2 year deal, then maybe entertain it. But I would try to go after maybe, like a Teague or an Augustine, a short term solution, and then, you know, go look at next year because it's not like the Knicks are going to go into the season with, that they're going to be a top five team in the. If that was the case, then I would say, okay, go after Fred, and we
Yeah.
could be that. But the Knicks, even if they do add Fred, there's no guarantee. They're probably not a playoff team.
Yeah.
So to me, a short-term solution, get a guy for a year, help develop the guys, a good vet, like Augustine and Teague or someone of that caliber, and then next year you get a better feel of the roster and you can probably find, like I said, the draft next year has a lot of good guards and free agency has a better point guard selection. So I would go that route. But if they do go after Fred and that's their decision, I wouldn't be, so too mad at that because he does bring a lot of value to the team.
Absolutely. And looking at some of the top free agents that are still available, you got obviously Anthony Davis, who said he's not going to rush making a
Yeah, yeah.
decision. Uh, with him being the top free agent there, do you think he stays with the Lakers and tries to run it back with LeBron, or do you think he goes somewhere else where he can make where I don't know if he could make more money, but do you think he goes somewhere else where he can be the number one option?
I think he stays with the Lakers. He'd be silly to leave LeBron and that, and they have a chance to win it again. It would be silly for him to go anywhere. I don't even see a fit anywhere else where, they would where he can go and be the guy unless he wants to be on a bad team. He went through that for 7+ years in New Orleans. I don't think he wants to go through that. And I don't know if he's a true number one as far as carrying the franchise guy, but being number two to LeBron is not something to be. We've seen what number twos with LeBron have done. They've all had success. Right? D
Mm-hmm.
Wade, Kyrie, they championships, right?
Mm-hmm.
And guess what? He won a championship with LeBron. I stay with LeBron. They're tight. They have the clutch connection. Obviously now, I think he does. I'm 100.99% sure. Whatever. I don't even know if that's a real percentage, but whatever is after 100%, I'm gay. I'm pretty sure he's gonna
Yeah.
sign. I think he's just waiting, just to see how the cap looks and all that, and as far as money wise, but
Yeah.
and how long he wants to stay there, because he could take the LeBron approach and do the 2+1s or the 1+1 deals, because LeBron is getting older. Even though
Yep.
he's a freak, he is going to be 35 years old. He
Yep.
still is an older player, and we don't know how much longer LeBron's going to be in the league. He's already accomplished everything possible, so he might just want to finish out his contract with the Lakers for 2 more years and call it. So AD's probably factoring all that. He's probably getting his intel from LeBron and letting him know, like, how much longer he's gonna play. So I think that's probably the case where he'll sign like a 2 year with a player option for year three, and try to time it with LeBron, because if you sign a 5-year deal, where a lot of people have been reporting, I don't think LeBron's going to be there in 5 years,
Right.
because his son's going to be in the league. I know he doesn't want to take the if his son does get to the league and all that, I don't think he wants to take the shine away from him, because the pressure, Bronny's going to have enough pressure as is being
Right.
LeBron's son. Now your dad's in the league still, and that, I don't think he's going to play 5 years. So I don't think AD will sign a 5-year. I think it'll be like a 2 1+1. Gives him flexibility he'll get paid again. If he stays, he'll get another max, and just gives him flexibility to see, if the Lakers, if LeBron's not LeBron no more, he's gone. Gives him flexibility to have more options and go somewhere else if that's necessary.
Absolutely. And I think one of the big X factors here in the free agency that we haven't talked about yet is a guy named Brandon Ingram, who is a restricted free agent. So
Yeah.
teams could be making a big push for him, but the Pelicans have the first right to match any contract that's made
Hmm.
offered out to him. Do you think that happens where a team goes and tries to overpay him and then the Pelicans match it? Or do you think Brandon Ingram ends up leaving to go somewhere else?
It's always tough with restricted free agency, because it's kind of even weird that they call them free agents, because they're not really free agents. They can go to a team and get an offer sheet, but like I said, the team can match anything. And I think this is the case where the Pelicans would be silly to let him go.
Mhm.
I think the Pelicans are gonna match any deal, but it's also tough with restricted free agency, because now you put an offer sheet. Now you got to wait 2 days. So things can happen in 2 days.
Yep.
So if you have a plan B, let's say you go all in and you want Brandon Ingram, now you have your plan B, your plan is gone in those 2 days, because
Hmm.
they may not want to wait. They might have a deal, and then your plan C. So now you have to. It gets tricky in as far as that. So unless you have a good feel that they're not going to match it, I don't even think it's worth even trying. But unless you just you're trying to just up the ante and for something. But I think I think New Orleans would be silly to not match any offer sheet that gets given to Brandon Ingram, and I think they'll retain him, and because he's coming off a career season.
Yeah.
He was an all-star. I think he averaged 25 a game. Shot 45% from the field. He's 22 years old.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, like he's the same age as Obi Toppin, and he's
Yeah.
already, you know, 4 years deep in the league. And he's just getting better and better. And you know, I know people worry about him and Zion together. I'm not too worried about that, as much. I was early. I was like, maybe I don't know if they fit, but to me, that was more of like the center position not being, what it was, and just not having, that spacing. But if Jackson Hayes can develop and be, get a shot, but I think not having Drew Holiday actually expands it. I think you'll see a lot more of Ingram having the ball in his hand and being a playmaker.
Hmm.
So I think they're gonna retain him and keep him and Zion as the focal as the friend. I mean
Hmm.
to have those two as your franchise players. I mean that's New Orleans is it was tough getting rid of Anthony Davis, but to get what they got in return, and then you have Lonzo, and then you added Kyra Lewis. I think Kyra Lewis is gonna add another dimension to this team where he's gonna break down the defense so much because he's so fast that they're gonna get a lot of open looks, and I think New Orleans would be silly to not retain Brandon Ingram because he could still get better on top of having an All Star season and averaging 25 a game. Then you add Zion. I they should it shouldn't even be a question whether they match any offer sheet. They that should be the quickest thing, and have him for the rest, him and Zion for years to come.
Absolutely, and you mentioned I'm just happy to see for him. I know he struggled early when he was drafted by the Lakers, and he
Hmm.
had all this hype, and everyone's like, "Oh, he's a bust already." Like the kid's
Yeah.
20 years old, 19, 18 years old already.
He's averaging
Like,
19 a game, and people are calling him a bust. Like he
right? I
averaged
know.
19 with LeBron. Like how hard it is to average 19 with LeBron at 21 years old. Like
Right.
it was crazy when people said, like, yeah, like he may have not have been as good as we thought, but when you play with LeBron, especially that last year,
You
like
have to adjust your game.
you
You
have to
have
adjust
to.
your game. Like it's
Yeah.
like we see it all the time. And then his first 2 years, he battled a lot of injuries, right?
Yeah.
We saw the
Absolutely.
injuries and stuff, and I think we forget that these guys are so young.
Hmm.
So they come into the league and like it's an adjustment. Like
It is.
everyone takes a different. Like not everyone's gonna come in year one and average 20 a game. Like we're talking about 18, 19-year-old kids for the most part. It takes time. And guess what? He got to a place, right? And it's also about where you go, right? You play
Yeah.
with LeBron, you're not going to average 25 a game unless you're Anthony Davis, unless you're an established star, right?
Right.
LeBron just likes vets around him.
Yep.
So once he went to New Orleans, he's more free, has the ball more in his hand, and look what he did.
Absolutely.
25, 20, average 25, and was an all-star. Like I knew. Listen, I'm a homer because I'm a Duke fan, and I was all in on Ingram. I'm a
Yeah.
big, I root for my Duke guys. But I just knew like once he went to New Orleans, like he's gonna take off. If he stays healthy, which is always the one, right? We always got to work because he had the health issues, right?
Yeah.
So we always have to worry about the health. But if he's healthy, he's gonna be a stud. And guess what happened? He came in. He was a stud. Like I know some of his stats fell off when Zion came, but that's going to happen too when Zion.
Yeah.
We're talking about a player of Zion's magnitude, so he's going to be fine. Re- Match it, whatever. I'm not even worried about him. Like I don't even think about Ingram in this process because I don't even think whoever even gives him an offer sheet. They have no chance of getting him. I think New Orleans retains him, and it's not even. There's no like. I want him on the Knicks. I want him on the Knicks so bad, but I'm like, there's
Right.
no point. There's literally no point because you're
Yeah.
not getting him. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter.
Now the question is just going to be how much is he going to get paid before for him to stay
Yeah.
in New Orleans. But it's gonna be a lot of fun with free agency because everything's so crammed, and it's really weird because they were talking during the draft about the free agency is now after the draft, and usually we do it. It's like months away. Now it's
Yeah.
just
Yeah. Yeah.
days away. So it's
It feels like
insane.
hours away. Like I felt like I did the
Yeah.
draft. Like I did the draft show, and like, all right, I was like, all right, I'm done. I'm done with this draft. I don't have to talk about it no more. And then it's like, wow, free agency starts like in like 2 days. Like, oh, I gotta
Yeah.
get back on it. Like, and then it's gonna happen like this and like that, and like it's crazy. I'm sure it's stressful for the players and all that, but for
Yeah.
guys like us who love, news and all this, this is like Christmas. Like
Yeah. It's
this is
yeah.
like Christmas in November. Like it's just constant. 24. Like you have to like. I remember the draft when I did the draft. I would go to sleep because I'm shot, and then literally a minute later, the news of Drew Holiday getting traded to the Milwaukee happened, and my phone
Yep.
blowing up. Now I didn't see it till the next morning. I'm like, why I
Right.
got so many messages? Drew Holiday just got traded to the. I'm like, whoa, I
Yeah.
didn't. So it's just like that. But this is fun. I love like in just a short span, we had the draft, free agency, trade. Like the trade deadline started Monday, then we had the draft Wednesday, and then free agency Friday. Like, it's madness, but it's good. It's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun if you're an NBA fan. And
Yeah.
we're going to be looking forward to hearing more about the coming days of free agency, where the top guy's going to land, what team that you root for, who they decide to go after. But we'll go ahead and kind of wrap everything up, and we'll let all the audience know, Chris, where can they find out more about Off the Ball Podcast and Off the Ball Network?
Yeah. So you can follow my podcast on all social media on Off the Ball Pod. You can find me Instagram, Twitter, Facebook page. That's where I do all the lives and all that. So you can go to the Off the Ball Podcast Facebook page. That's where I do a lot of live shows and all that. Twitter, I'm super active on Twitter, so I'm always posting stuff on there. And then the podcast you can find at all podcast platforms. Wherever you listen to your podcasts, go listen there. YouTube, Off the Ball Podcast on YouTube. Also, I post stuff there too. And then the network is something, for I think this is the third month I've been doing it, the network, and it's been going great. We do everything there. I got a nice group of guys that we basketball, NBA, college football, you name it, hockey, even got hockey in there. I've learned so much about, and I'm not the biggest hockey fan. I'm more of a casual hockey fan. I'll watch, but we've been doing a lot of hockey stuff, everything, it's crazy that the expansion of this and how it's taken off. So yeah, you can go off OTB_network on Twitter. You can go to offtheballnetwork.com and look at all the great stuff. We're on Discord too. You can join the Discord. We have a Facebook basketball group that you can join, all that good stuff. Yeah, we just trying to be great, just trying to be great one, and seeing, seeing where we could take this, so it's a fun journey. I mean, you have a great platform as well. I love the design. I think that's the first thing I'd look when you guys do your shows, is the design. I'm like, wow, that looks sweet. So I've learned so much from watching other networks and other stuff. So it's been so much fun during this whole process with the podcast taking off the way it is gone, and branching off to having a network and all that. So it's all great. But you can find me, the podcast, and all that, and on all social media and all that, and check out the website. But it's been a blast.
Yeah, always love having you on the show, Chris. Looking forward
Yeah.
to the next time we can get together and collab again.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, appreciate all the kind words, and we'll look forward to hearing the rest and get ready for another NBA season right around the corner.
I can't wait. Soon.
All right, thanks a lot.
No problem.
Podcast City Network.